If quantum collapse happens in an instant, the question that should disturb you isn't about acceleration. It's about this. Why does your existence feel perpetually lagging behind the version of reality you already sense is true? Here's what nobody wants to admit. If delay were real, you'd experience struggle, pressure, and relentless pushing. But what most people actually encounter is far stranger. A peculiar quiet frustration, almost emotionless. A knowing that something has completed itself somewhere, simply not in your current experience yet. That sensation is not your mind playing games. It's not restlessness. It's not your inner guidance deceiving you. It's the friction between how the universe actually operates and how your conditioning trained you to perceive temporal flow. Quantum mechanics has already demonstrated that existence doesn't roll forward like film through a projector. Potential realities don't travel toward your location incrementally. They exist right now in the field as simultaneous probability states. Nothing is under construction. Nothing is in transit. There's no gradual assembly happening according to your mental timeline. From the field's vantage point, once a coherent state forms, the corresponding reality is present. No buffer period, no pause, no space between. So if manifestation occurs instantly, what are you actually waiting for? This is where discomfort enters, because the answer isn't out there. You're not waiting on the universe. The universe is waiting on you to stop treating it like something incomplete. Most assume waiting is passive, like remaining still while circumstances catch up. But waiting is actually an energetic stance. It's a position, a signal, a way of pointing your awareness towards something you experience as separate. The quantum field doesn't register your desires. It registers your relationship to wholeness. Here's the paradox the manifestation world refuses to name. The instant you're waiting for arrival, you're declaring internally that it's absent, distant, locked in tomorrow. The field mirrors that relational truth with surgical accuracy. This is why people who apply every method still feel trapped in repetition. They see it, they speak it, they radiate positivity. Yet the waiting persists. And while that internal posture remains, so does the appearance of distance. Neuroscience reveals this with startling clarity. When your brain orients toward future expectation, it locks into prediction mode. It continuously scans for evidence. That scanning behavior reinforces the belief that the event remains unrealized. Your nervous system hovers in partial activation, not panicked enough to collapse, not settled enough to land, just suspended. And suspension cannot trigger quantum selection, because selection doesn't emerge from hunger. It emerges from completion. Quantum consciousness research, particularly work by figures like Amit Goswami, reveals something crucial. Consciousness doesn't force outcomes into being through will. It selects from possibilities that already exist throughout the field, and selection becomes available only when internal conflict dissolves. Waiting is conflict. It's the quiet broadcast saying this remains future, but perhaps it will arrive. The field reflects that broadcast without judgment. This explains why major manifestations often land when people forget to monitor them. Not from surrender that feels like defeat, but because something internal shifted from process to presence, from hoping to inhabiting, from waiting to settled neutrality. And neutral isn't cold, it's whole. So when you encounter the statement that manifestation is instantaneous, it's not cheerleading. It's diagnosis. If it hasn't materialized, the issue isn't speed. The issue is that something within you continues categorizing it as pending. which raises a far more penetrating question than how to accelerate. What would need to transform inside you so that waiting becomes obsolete? That's the territory we're about to enter. One of the deepest confusions around manifestation stems from projecting human motion onto reality itself. The assumption that existence advances gradually, increment by increment. But the quantum field doesn't acknowledge schedules, due dates, or linear progression the way consciousness does. Time as you live, it isn't a property of the field. It's an artifact of perception. From a quantum standpoint, nothing is being constructed in futurity. Outcomes aren't en route. They exist now as complete probability configurations in a field that transcends linear chronology. The only variable is which probability gets selected into lived experience. This is where waiting becomes such a revelatory signal. If manifestation were genuinely slow, you'd sense motion toward something. You'd register buildup, resistance, forward pressure. But waiting feels oddly static, neutral, almost frozen. That sensation isn't slowness. It's calibration error between what your mind anticipates and how the field actually functions. Quantum theory has shown us that particles don't journey through space-time in conventional terms. They exist as probability distributions, waves of potential, until observation collapses them into definite states. Nothing travels into form. It's chosen. The same mechanics apply to experience itself. What you call manifestation isn't generation across time. It's selection from existing states. And selection can't occur when the observer internally oscillates between this is complete and this hasn't happened yet. This is why attempting to rush things always fails. Velocity only exists within time, and the field doesn't operate within time. If this is landing for you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay connected to this frequency. Neuroscience validates this more deeply than most realize. When your brain points toward futurity, waiting, projecting, calculating, it activates survival and planning architecture. These systems serve practical navigation, but they anchor awareness in sequential processing. They amplify the frequency of not yet. And as long as your physiology organizes around not yet, the field mirrors exactly that. This isn't cosmic punishment, it's cosmic precision. The quantum field doesn't respond to striving, longing, or desperation because none of those frequencies hold stability. They shift, they wobble. One breath you trust, the next you question. One moment you're lit up, the next you're searching for proof. The field can't lock onto which version of you to reflect. And here's what makes this particularly challenging to grasp. The field isn't evaluating your worthiness. It isn't judging your dedication. It's simply reflecting the dominant state your consciousness occupies. Think of it like a mirror that doesn't care what stands before it. It just shows what's there. When your internal state flickers between certainty and doubt, between presence and absence, between having and wanting, the field doesn't choose which one to respond to. It responds to the oscillation itself. And oscillation creates more oscillation. This is why affirmations sometimes work and sometimes don't. It's not about the words. It's about the state the words emerge from. If you're affirming from a place of already having, already being, already complete, the field receives a clear signal. But if you're affirming to convince yourself, to combat doubt, to create what you believe is missing, you're actually reinforcing the very frequency you're trying to move away from. You're declaring absence while speaking abundance. And the field, with absolute neutrality, mirrors the deeper truth. Instant manifestation demands something simpler yet infinitely more difficult: internal resolution. Resolution means your system stops negotiating with the outcome. There's no background dialogue running, no surveillance, no verification process, no emotional investment in whether or not it lands. The state settles, and settled systems enable selection. This is why people consistently report their most powerful manifestations arrived while they were engaged elsewhere, emotionally flat, or no longer pursuing. Not because focus creates reality, but because the removal of internal static allows coherence to stabilize. Time vanishes when coherence arrives. Think about the last time something you wanted just appeared without effort. Maybe it was a job opportunity, a relationship, a solution to a problem. If you track back to the moment before it manifested, you'll likely notice something specific. You had stopped obsessing. You had stopped checking. You had stopped the mental rehearsal of how it would feel when it finally arrived. You weren't indifferent. You simply weren't in a state of lack about it anymore. That shift, that subtle internal recalibration, is what allowed the quantum field to respond. This also explains why the phrase "it's already done" either transforms everything or accomplishes nothing, depending on the internal state holding it. If deployed as a mantra to combat uncertainty, it creates more effort. But when experienced as quiet recognition without emotion, without tension, it reflects the field's actual mechanics. The field doesn't approach you. You align with what already exists. Waiting, then, isn't time elapsing. It's consciousness suspended between two states. And here's what most teachings never touch. You don't escape waiting by increasing positivity or patience. You escape waiting by restructuring your relationship with completion itself, by releasing the internal demand for proof before allowing yourself to feel resolved. This is why manifestation feels instantaneous only in retrospect. From inside the process, it never felt like building, advancing, or approaching. Then suddenly it's present. That's not the end of delay. That's the collapse of ambiguity. Once you see this with clarity, another question becomes inescapable. If time was never the obstacle, what internal orientation has been maintaining the waiting state? That's what we address next. At this stage, something potentially confronting needs to be spoken. Waiting isn't happening to you. Waiting is something your system actively generates. Most treat waiting like a passive interval, standing still while the cosmos organizes itself. But internally, waiting is an active, energetic posture. It's a subtle consciousness configuration that positions the outcome in tomorrow and yourself in today, incomplete without it. And the quantum field reads that orientation with extraordinary sensitivity. From external observation, two individuals can appear identical, matching desires, matching goals, matching declarations. But internally, one has resolved and the other waits. One rests in completion without proof. The other remains suspended pending confirmation. And the field treats these two states as completely distinct realities. Neuroscience clarifies why waiting becomes so adhesive. When your brain orients toward expectation, it activates predictive processing networks. Your awareness begins hunting for indicators, schedules, symbols, feedback loops. Even when you practice patience, the nervous system stays subtly alert, not distressed enough to break, not calm enough to rest, just activated enough to keep monitoring. That monitoring loop transmits a single, consistent signal. This remains absent, and repetition embeds that transmission deeper into your system. What's happening at the neurological level is that your brain is literally wiring itself for anticipation. Every time you check your reality for signs of progress, every time you scan your environment for evidence, every time you mentally rehearse what it will feel like when it finally arrives, you're strengthening neural pathways associated with lack. You're teaching your brain that this thing exists somewhere other than here, sometime other than now. And your brain, being the extraordinary pattern recognition machine that it is, becomes increasingly efficient at perceiving absence rather than presence. Over time, waiting becomes familiar, even comfortable. It eventually becomes identity. The person in transition, the person nearly there, the person who knows arrival is coming but hasn't experienced it yet. That identity carries hope, but it's fundamentally incomplete. And the field mirrors identity before it mirrors intention. Think about how you introduce yourself in conversations, even internal ones. Are you the person who is working towards something, or the person who already is something? Are you becoming, or are you being? The subtle difference in that self-perception creates dramatically different quantum signatures. The person who is becoming constantly broadcasts a signal of incompletion. The person who is being broadcasts wholeness. And the field, with perfect neutrality, reflects whichever signal dominates. This explains why many people experience peculiar emotional flattening after prolonged manifestation practice. The initial excitement dissolves. The urgency softens, but the waiting endures. It becomes more quiet, more refined, harder to detect, and subtlety makes release more challenging. Quantum manifestation doesn't break down at the desire level. It stalls at the relational level. What is your relationship to the thing you claim to want? If it registers as the thing that would finally let you exhale, feel secure, feel validated, feel whole, then waiting is woven into the relationship's fabric. Your nervous system has learned that wholeness exists in the future. And while wholeness remains future-based, the present state stays unresolved. This shift from the hunger signal to coherent transmission is what I call moving beyond the frequencies. And it's the foundation of everything we're exploring today. If you're sensing there are deeper layers here, layers about how to actually shift your broadcast from seeking to being. I've mapped out the complete system in my book, Beyond the Frequencies, A Quantum Guide to Consciousness Mastery. It takes you through the 9 master frequencies that transform you from someone waiting on reality to someone the field recognizes as already complete. It's linked in the pinned comment below. Here's a way to test this in your own experience. Think about something you're manifesting right now. Notice how your body responds when you think about it. Does your chest expand or contract? Does your breathing deepen or shallow? Does your energy lift or drop? These physiological responses reveal your true relationship to the outcome. If thinking about it creates tension, longing, or a sense of incompletion, you're in waiting. If thinking about it feels neutral, settled, or already complete, you're in coherence. This is why letting go gets so thoroughly misunderstood. People interpret letting go as erasure, suppression, or performative indifference. But letting go has nothing to do with attention. It has everything to do with dependency. You don't release the desire. You release the internal requirement that its arrival is necessary for your completeness. When that requirement dissolves, waiting dissolves with it. From a quantum lens, this is when ambiguity collapses. Consciousness stops broadcasting contradictory signals. There's no longer fragmentation between who you are now and who you'll become once it manifests. The system achieves coherence, And coherence doesn't require time. This also explains why many manifestations appear to materialize from nowhere. Externally, it appears sudden, but internally, something very specific occurred first. The person stopped relating to the outcome as absent, not intellectually, somatically, nervously, at the identity level. The nervous system released its grip. And when that release happens, the field doesn't race to catch up. It simply reflects the new state. This disturbs the mind because it eliminates control. The mind wants to orchestrate outcomes, track development, feel productive. Waiting gives the mind purpose. Letting go strips that purpose completely, which is why people unconsciously sabotage this phase repeatedly. The moment things feel quiet, neutral, or settled, the mind experiences panic. It questions, shouldn't I be taking action? So it reintroduces effort, visualization, analysis, not because it's required, but because uncertainty without control registers as danger. Pause here. What pattern keeps pulling you back into waiting? Drop a word or phrase in the comments that describes the specific loop you're recognizing in yourself right now. The mind has been conditioned to believe that if you're not actively doing something, nothing is happening. But in the quantum field, the opposite is often true. The most powerful shifts occur in stillness, in the space between thoughts, in the moment when you stop trying to make something happen and simply allow what already exists to become visible. But that reintroduction of effort reactivates waiting. This is the loop most people never witness. Manifestation isn't obstructed by insufficient doing. It's obstructed by the return to the not yet frequency the instant things go quiet. So the real question becomes, can you tolerate completion before evidence materializes? Not manufacture it, not declare it, not convince yourself of it, just permit it. Because the instant your system no longer requires the outcome to regulate itself, the field receives a clear transmission to respond to. And that raises the next inflection point in this exploration. If waiting is a state, not a timeline, what actually triggers the internal shift that ends it? That's where we're headed next. If waiting is a state, it can only dissolve when another state replaces it. Not through force, not through discipline, but through an internal shift so complete that your system forgets how to wait. This is the piece almost no one articulates clearly, because it sounds deceptively straightforward and profoundly uncomfortable simultaneously. Waiting ends the instant your nervous system stops treating the outcome as necessary for safety, identity, or completion. That's the shift. The switch isn't cognitive, it's physiological. It's the moment your body stops bracing for what's next. From a neuroscience perspective, this occurs when your brain exits predictive stress patterns. As long as your system subtly prepares for potential disappointment, manages hope, or tracks timing, it remains oriented toward survival. Even optimistic anticipation maintains slight nervous system activation. That activation signals incompletion, and the quantum field mirrors your nervous system before it mirrors your thoughts. This is why so many people grasp manifestation intellectually, yet remain stuck experientially. They understand the concept, but their body continues waiting. Their muscles hold subtle tension. Their breath stays shallow. Their attention fragments between present and future. The system hasn't achieved rest. Your body is always telling the truth about your internal state, even when your mind is telling a different story. You can think positive thoughts all day, but if your shoulders are tense, if your jaw is clenched, if your stomach is tight, your body is broadcasting a different frequency then your thoughts. And the field responds to the body's frequency first, because the body doesn't lie. The body can't perform. The body simply is. Rest isn't passivity. Rest is coherence. In quantum language, coherence means all internal signals align in one direction. No contradiction, no negotiation, no internal debate about probability. The observer settles, and settled systems collapse reality more efficiently than motivated ones. The internal switch activates when you stop auditing your reality for confirmation. Not because you're dodging disappointment, but because confirmation is no longer necessary for regulation. You don't need evidence to feel safe. You don't need indicators to feel aligned. You don't need progress to feel resolved. That's the switch. Most people mistake this moment for apathy or fading interest. They think maybe this doesn't matter anymore. But that's not what's occurring. Desire doesn't vanish. Dependency vanishes. And dependency is what generates waiting. From quantum consciousness perspective, this is when selection becomes accessible. Awareness is no longer fractured between present identity and future identity. There's no before and after version of you internally. There's just one coherent state, and the field responds immediately to coherence. Not emotionally, not theatrically, but structurally. This is where the concept of quantum entanglement becomes personally relevant. In quantum physics, entangled particles affect each other instantaneously across any distance. When you achieve internal coherence, you become entangled with the outcome you're selecting. Not in the future, not as a separate thing that must travel to you, but as a present reality that's already interconnected with your state of being. The moment coherence stabilizes, the entanglement becomes observable in your lived experience. This is why manifestation often feels remarkably quiet right before it materializes. There's no excitement surge, no urgency, no mental rehearsal, just a recognition that nothing requires management anymore. The mind despises this phase because the mind equates effort with control, and control with survival. So when effort dissolves, the mind attempts to reinsert itself. It generates questions. It reopens loops. It resurrects timelines. It proposes just one more affirmation, just one more visualization, just one more verification, and the instant you follow that impulse, waiting returns. So the work here isn't about implementing something new. It's about recognizing when the system has already resolved and not disrupting it. This is where refined awareness matters more than technique. The ability to detect the moment when your body relaxes around the outcome, when emotional charge drops, when mental narrative goes quiet, and allowing that state to remain undisturbed because that state is the transmission. You might notice this in unexpected moments. Maybe you're washing dishes and suddenly realize you haven't thought about your manifestation in hours. Maybe you're walking outside and feel an unusual lightness, a freedom from the constant mental checking. Maybe you wake up one morning and the urgency has simply evaporated. These aren't signs that you've given up. These are signs that you've let go. And letting go is the doorway through which manifestation enters. To anchor this internally with gentleness, here's a simple practice you can use not as affirmation, not as performance, but as alignment. If this lands in you, write "it's already done" in the comments. Not to persuade yourself, not to stake a claim, but as a way of marking coherence, a recognition rather than a request. The act of writing isn't what transmits. The state you write from transmits. And if writing that phrase feels neutral, not thrilling, not hopeful, not urgent, that neutrality is precisely the frequency the field responds to. Because the field doesn't respond to effort, it responds to resolution. And once this switch activates, something else begins occurring, something that initially confuses most people. Reality starts reorganizing itself in ways you didn't design, didn't forecast, and couldn't have visualized. Once the internal switch activates and waiting dissolves, something subtle yet unmistakable begins happening. Reality doesn't surge toward you. It doesn't announce its arrival. It doesn't manifest with spectacle or dramatic validation. Instead, it begins reorganizing quietly, almost casually, as though correcting something that's been misaligned for years. This is where confusion enters for most people. They anticipate manifestation will feel like reward, like cosmic approval, like the universe finally acknowledging them. But what actually unfolds feels more like normalization. Conversations recalibrate. Opportunities surface effortlessly. Obstacles evaporate without reason. Situations that previously felt complex suddenly feel irrelevant. And because it doesn't arrive dramatically, the mind struggles to recognize it as manifestation. From a quantum perspective, this makes complete sense. When coherence stabilizes, the field doesn't need to deliver anything. It simply mirrors the new internal configuration. Probability pathways reorganize. Certain options lose relevance. Others become self-evident. Reality doesn't shift direction. It shifts accessibility. This is why people frequently say, things just fell into place, or it unfolded naturally, or I stopped trying and it happened. Those statements aren't coincidental. They're descriptions of a system no longer experiencing interference. The crucial understanding here is that manifestation doesn't add elements to your experience. It removes resistance from pathways that already exist. Once your system achieves coherence, outcomes don't need to force entry. They're simply no longer obstructed. Think of it like removing debris from a river. The water doesn't suddenly start flowing. The water was always flowing. It was just blocked. Once the blockage clears, the natural current resumes instantly. Your manifestations are the same. They're not being created in response to your coherence. They're being revealed. They were always there, always available, always present in the quantum field. Your waiting was the debris. Your coherence removed it. Neuroscience explains this through attentional filtering mechanisms. When your nervous system is no longer activated by lack or anticipation, perception transforms. You stop scanning for validation and begin responding to what's actually available. Decisions simplify. Timing synchronizes. You accept things you would have previously hesitated on and decline things that once depleted you. Externally, it resembles confidence. Internally, it registers as ease. This also explains why manifestations frequently arrive in unexpected forms. When you were waiting, your mind attempted to predict the mechanism. It constructed narrow channels. But once waiting ends, the field gains more latitude to respond creatively. It selects the path of least resistance, not the path you imagined. And because of that, many people nearly overlook their manifestation when it arrives. They're searching for a specific shape, a specific signal, a specific narrative. Meanwhile, reality has already shifted in their favor, just not through the route they rehearsed. You might have been visualizing a specific job at a specific company, but what manifests is an unexpected opportunity that actually serves you better. You might have been focused on a particular person, but what arrives is a connection that fulfills you more deeply. You might have been trying to manifest a specific amount of money through a specific channel. But what appears is an entirely different source that exceeds what you were trying to create. This isn't the universe playing tricks. This is the field's intelligence operating at a level your conscious mind couldn't predict. This is where trust becomes functional, not conceptual. Trust doesn't mean believing everything will resolve. It means permitting the outcome to arrive without demanding it conform to your expectations. It means recognizing that coherence grants the field permission to solve the equation more efficiently than your mind ever could. Another significant shift happens during this phase. Urgency disappears, not because you stopped caring, but because caring no longer carries weight. You're no longer emotionally bargaining with the future. The system feels stable, independent of timing. And that stability generates momentum without force. This is why people often experience a brief period of emotional stillness before rapid movement occurs. The nervous system recalibrates. Old patterns lose relevance. You may notice yourself becoming less reactive, less attached to specific outcomes, less compelled to justify your direction to others. This isn't withdrawal, it's recalibration. And recalibration is essential before a larger transformation can fully anchor. During this recalibration phase, you might notice other interesting phenomena. Synchronicities increase. You think of someone and they contact you. You need information, and it appears seemingly by chance. You wonder about a decision, and clarity arrives through an unexpected conversation. These aren't coincidences. These are evidences of coherence. When your internal state aligns with the quantum field, the field begins communicating with you through your reality, not through effort, through resonance. If you've ever noticed that immediately before significant change, life feels strangely uneventful, this is why. The field is reorganizing probabilities, not generating noise. Silence isn't emptiness. Silence is alignment. The risk in this phase is subtle. It's the temptation to reintroduce effort because things feel too still. The mind becomes concerned that nothing is moving. It craves reassurance. It wants activity. And if you're not aware, you might slip back into waiting without recognizing it. That's why the most essential capacity here isn't action, but non-interference. Allow the reorganization to complete itself. Let the new pathways become obvious organically. Because once coherence establishes itself, reality doesn't need direction. It needs space. And when you permit that space to remain open, the final shift, the visible, undeniable transformation, tends to arrive more rapidly than you anticipated and in a way that feels almost inevitable. But here's what makes this phase particularly delicate. The moment things start manifesting, the old pattern wants to return. Your mind sees evidence and immediately wants to grab it, analyze it, claim it, celebrate it. And in that grabbing, you can actually slow down or distort the full manifestation. It's like trying to force a flower to bloom faster by pulling on its petals. The blooming happens at its own pace in its own way, and interference only damages the process. So the practice here is to notice the signs without grasping them, to acknowledge the shifts without making them mean you've arrived, to feel gratitude without slipping back into the frequency of relief, which is just another form of lack. Gratitude from wholeness feels different than relief from scarcity. One says thank you for reflecting what already is. The other says thank you for finally giving me what I didn't have. The field knows the difference. That brings us to the final element of this exploration. How to stabilize this state so you don't collapse back into waiting the moment results begin appearing. that's where everything integrates. The final element isn't about obtaining what you desire. It's about remaining who you became when waiting vanished. This is where most people unconsciously dismantle their own manifestations. Not through renewed doubt, not through lost faith, but because the nervous system hasn't yet familiarized itself with stability. Once something begins shifting, once reality starts responding, the old monitoring habit quietly returns. The mind questions, "Is this what I've been waiting for?" The body contracts slightly. Attention tilts forward again, and waiting re-enters the system. This is why manifestation isn't an event. It's a state requiring stabilization. The field can respond instantaneously, but the nervous system needs repetition to maintain coherence without effort. Otherwise, it reverts to anticipation, control, or subtle urgency whenever uncertainty resurfaces. From a quantum perspective, this makes absolute sense. Consciousness doesn't collapse reality once and cease. It continuously selects experience based on the most dominant internal state. If coherence is temporary, results are temporary. If coherence becomes identity, reality reorganizes permanently. This is the distinction between attracting something and becoming someone. Becoming is quieter, less stimulating, less theatrical, but exponentially more powerful. Think about people you know who seem to effortlessly manifest, not because they're trying harder or know some secret technique, but because they've become the frequency of what they experience. They're not attracting abundance. They are abundance. They're not calling in love. They are love. They're not trying to manifest success. They are success. The difference isn't semantic. It's quantum. When you are the thing, the field doesn't need to deliver it. To you, it simply reflects you back to yourself. You don't stabilize this state by attempting to maintain it. That would reintroduce effort. You stabilize it by creating structures that return you to coherence when awareness wanders. Not forcing alignment, remembering it. This is where intentional frameworks become valuable. Not techniques, not rituals performed from fear, but systems designed to help the nervous system feel safe without future-based reassurance. To feel complete without requiring evidence. To return to neutrality without suppressing desire. These frameworks might look different for different people. For some, it's a morning practice that reorients them to presence before the day's momentum pulls them into waiting. For others, it's conscious breathing throughout the day that brings them back to their body when the mind starts projecting into the future. For others, it's environmental cues, reminders placed strategically to interrupt the pattern of checking and return them to coherence. The key is that these aren't things you do to create the manifestation. They're things you do to maintain the state in which manifestation is inevitable. They're not about doing more. They're about being consistent. That's why I developed the quantum rebirth work, not to teach manifestation mechanics, but to help stabilize the internal state where manifestation no longer demands effort. It's designed to guide you through identity-level transformations, not mindset adjustments. So coherence becomes familiar rather than fragile. And alongside it, the quantum grimoire exists as a practical companion, not as a task list, but as a way to ground this state into daily awareness without converting it into another obligation. This isn't about altering reality. It's about dissolving the internal conditions that were preventing reality from responding initially. What I've found working with thousands of people through this process is that the biggest barrier isn't understanding the mechanics. Most people grasp the concepts intellectually quite quickly. The barrier is nervous system regulation. The barrier is being able to stay in coherence when everything in your conditioning wants to revert to waiting. The barrier is tolerating the emptiness of non-doing when your entire life you've been taught that doing equals deserving. The quantum rebirth work addresses this specifically. It doesn't give you more things to do. It helps you dissolve the internal architecture that creates waiting in the first place. It works at the level of nervous system repatterning, identity reformation, and energetic recalibration. Because you can't think your way into a new state. You have to become it. And becoming requires more than information. It requires transformation. If this exploration resonated with you, it's likely because something in you already recognized the truth beneath it. Not intellectually, somatically. You've felt the moments when release worked. You've felt the stillness before change. You've observed how things accelerate when you stop monitoring them. That recognition matters because once you perceive that waiting was never about time, you stop attempting to outpace it. You stop negotiating with the future. You stop performing alignment. You simply permit the system to remain settled, and from that place, manifestation stops feeling like something you're executing and starts feeling like something that's already been resolved. And here's what becomes possible from that place. You stop living in the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You stop experiencing your present moment as insufficient. You stop treating your current reality as the thing you're trying to escape. Instead, you begin to recognize that every moment contains the fullness of quantum possibility. Every breath is an opportunity to select a different probability. Every thought is a chance to align with a different timeline. This doesn't mean you stop having desires. It doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent. It means your desires stop feeling like evidence of what you lack and start feeling like exciting explorations of what's possible. You're not trying to get somewhere to finally be okay. You're already okay. And from that place of okayness, you're curious about what else wants to emerge through you. This is when manifestation becomes play instead of survival. This is when creation becomes joy instead of struggle. This is when your life becomes an expression of who you are, instead of a desperate attempt to prove who you're trying to become. Nothing requires pursuit. Nothing requires force. Nothing requires proof. Just don't interrupt the coherence once it establishes itself. Because the moment you stop waiting for reality to move, reality no longer has any reason to wait for you. And if you're genuinely ready to make this shift, if something in you recognizes that you've been waiting long enough, then I invite you to subscribe, not just to this channel, but to this frequency, to this space where we explore consciousness, reality, and the quantum mechanics of transformation together. Because the more of us who embody this understanding, the more the collective field shifts. The more of us who stop waiting and start being, the more reality itself reorganizes around coherence instead of lack. Consider watching this video again tomorrow morning before you begin your day. Let these concepts recalibrate your system while it's still quiet, before the noise of daily momentum pulls you back into old patterns. And if someone in your life is stuck in the waiting loop, share this with them. When you transmit these understandings to others, you're not just helping them, you're strengthening your own coherence, creating synchronicities in the field that accelerate your own manifestation. The act of sharing is itself a declaration that you've moved from scarcity to overflow. This is bigger than personal manifestation. This is about collective awakening. This is about what becomes possible when enough people remember that they're not separate from the field. They are the field, experiencing itself, creating itself, manifesting itself in infinite forms. So take a moment. Drop one word in the comments that captures the shift you're choosing right now. Not the shift you hope will happen eventually, the shift you're choosing in this moment. That word is your energetic signature to the quantum field. It's your declaration, not of what you want, of what you already are. And remember, you don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to wait for readiness. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. Because waiting is the only thing standing between you and the reality that's already here, already available, already yours. The quantum field is instant. Your manifestations are instant. The only question remaining is, are you? Now, if you're starting to recognize that waiting was never the issue, you need to understand exactly how your thoughts collapse into form instantaneously. The mechanics we've explored today are only half the equation. Watch this next, because it reveals the precise mechanism through which your internal state becomes your lived reality faster than you've been taught is possible, and why most people never see it happen. The connection between what we just covered and what you're about to learn will completely shift how you approach every moment of your existence.